Tonight, as the world outside grows quiet and the day's worries begin to fade, we're going to embark on a journey to a place where magic still lingers in the air like morning frost, a realm where hearts can change, where kindness melts even the coldest barriers, and where love finds a way to bloom even in the deepest winter. So settle into your pillows, let your breathing slow, and allow yourself to drift into a story that will carry you gently into peaceful dreams. In the far northern reaches of the world, beyond the last village and past the final mountain peak, there existed a kingdom that time seemed to have forgotten. This was the Crystal Realm, a land perpetually wrapped in winter's embrace, where snowflakes danced eternally through the air, and ice formations created palaces more beautiful than any human architect could imagine. The trees stood like crystal sculptures, their branches heavy with icicles that chimed softly in the gentle breeze, creating music that echoed through the valleys like whispered lullabies. At the heart of this frozen wonderland stood a magnificent palace carved entirely from ice, so pure it seemed to glow with its own inner light. The walls were smooth as polished mirrors, reflecting the aurora that painted the sky in ribbons of green and gold. Spires twisted toward the heavens like frozen flames, and windows sparkled like diamonds set in silver frames. This was the home of Queen Alara, known throughout the land as the Ice Queen, though few had ever seen her face. Queen Alara had not always ruled alone in this crystalline solitude. Once, long ago, the Crystal Realm had been filled with laughter and warmth despite the snow. Children had played in the courtyards, their rosy cheeks bright against the white landscape. Families had gathered around great hearths, sharing stories and hot meals while the wind sang outside their windows. But that was before the great sorrow, before the queen's heart had turned to ice along with everything she touched. The transformation had not happened overnight. It began the winter her beloved parents, the former king and queen, had been lost in a terrible blizzard while trying to help travelers find shelter. Young Alara, barely 18, and suddenly thrust onto the throne, had felt grief so profound it seemed to freeze her very soul. With each passing day, as she struggled to bear the weight of her crown and her loss, the cold within her grew stronger. Her tears became ice crystals, her breath turned to frost, and slowly, inevitably, her touch began to freeze everything around her. The people of the realm, frightened by their queen's strange new power, had gradually fled to warmer lands. Those who remained became distant, afraid to draw too close to their sovereign. Gardens withered under her gaze. Flowers turned to ice sculptures at her approach, and even the castle's great fires would extinguish themselves when she entered a room. In her despair, Alara had retreated deeper and deeper into her palace until finally she had sealed herself away entirely, ruling her empty kingdom from behind walls of ice and silence. Now, 20 years had passed since anyone had seen the Ice Queen's face. Travelers spoke in hushed tones of the cursed realm where winter never ended, where a sorrowful queen had turned her own heart to ice and in doing so had frozen her entire world. Some said she had become a monster. Others claimed she was merely a legend, a cautionary tale told to children about the dangers of letting grief consume you entirely. But legends, as we know, have a way of drawing certain people toward them rather than away. And so it was that on one particularly crisp morning, when the sun painted the snow in shades of rose and gold, a figure appeared on the horizon of the Crystal Realm. This was Marcus, a traveling merchant whose heart was as warm as the queen's was cold, though he did not yet know of her existence. Marcus was the sort of person who saw wonder in every sunrise and found joy in the simplest pleasures. His wagon was painted in cheerful blues and yellows, colors that seemed almost impossibly bright against the white landscape. The sides were decorated with small bells that jingled merrily as his horses picked their way through the snow, and the back was filled with goods from distant lands: warm woolen blankets from the southern valleys, sweet honey from mountain apiaries, carved wooden toys that seemed to hold laughter within their grain, and jars of preserves that tasted like summer sunshine. He had not set out for the Crystal Realm intentionally. Marcus had been traveling the trade routes between kingdoms when a sudden storm had blown him off course. For 3 days, he had wandered through the blizzard, his compass spinning wildly, his maps useless in the whirling snow. But Marcus was not one to despair easily. He sang songs to keep his spirits up, told jokes to his horses, and shared his food with the small Arctic creatures that sometimes appeared beside his wagon, drawn by his kindness and the warmth that seemed to radiate from his very being. When the storm finally cleared and Marcus found himself gazing upon the Crystal Realm for the first time, he felt not fear, but wonder. The beauty of the ice palace took his breath away. The way the morning light caught in the crystalline walls and scattered rainbows across the snow seemed like magic made visible. Instead of turning his wagon around and seeking a safer path, as any sensible person might have done, Marcus felt drawn forward by curiosity and something deeper. Perhaps it was the way the palace seemed to call to him, or perhaps it was simply that his warm heart recognized the profound loneliness that hung over this beautiful, empty place like a shroud. As his wagon rolled through the gates of the outer courtyard, the bells on its sides rang out in the crystal-clear air. The sound echoed off the ice walls, creating a symphony of chimes that had not been heard in the realm for 20 years. In her tower high above, Queen Alara stirred from her meditations, startled by the unfamiliar music. She moved to her window, careful not to touch the glass, lest her frozen fingers crack it, and peered down at the colorful wagon below. The sight of the cheerful merchant filled her with a mixture of emotions she had not felt in decades. Wonder at the bright colors that seemed so foreign in her monochrome world. Curiosity about who would be brave or foolish enough to enter her realm. And beneath it all, a longing so deep she had almost forgotten it existed. When had she last spoken to another person? When had she last heard laughter or song? The questions stirred something in the frozen chambers of her heart, like the first crack in ice when winter begins to yield to spring. Marcus, unaware that he was being observed, began to set up a small camp in the courtyard. He unhitched his horses and led them to a sheltered area where he spread fresh hay and offered them water from his traveling barrels. Then he built a fire, his movements confident and practiced despite the unusual setting. Soon, warm light and the scent of cooking food began to fill the air, creating a pocket of comfort in the midst of the eternal winter. As evening approached and Marcus settled beside his fire with a simple meal, he began to sing. His voice was rich and warm, carrying melodies from the southern lands, where flowers bloomed year-round and children played in fields of green grass. He sang of friendship and adventure, of small kindnesses that changed the world, and of love that could overcome any obstacle. His songs drifted up through the still air, finding their way through the palace corridors like gentle messengers, carrying warmth to places that had known only cold for far too long. From her window, Queen Alara listened with growing amazement. The music seemed to wrap around her like a warm cloak, and for the first time in 20 years, she felt the ice around her heart begin to shift ever so slightly. She found herself leaning closer to the glass, straining to hear every note, every word of the beautiful songs that spoke of a world she had almost forgotten existed. And so began the first night of what would become a most extraordinary encounter. Though neither the Ice Queen nor the warm-hearted traveler yet knew how their meeting would change both of their lives forever. Marcus slept peacefully that first night, his dreams filled with melodies and warmth, despite the crystalline cold that surrounded his small camp. Above him, however, Queen Alara did not sleep at all. She stood at her window throughout the dark hours, watching the gentle glow of the dying embers below, and listening to the soft sounds of the traveler's quiet breathing carried on the still air. Something about his presence felt like a balm to wounds she had forgotten she carried. When dawn broke across the crystal realm, painting the ice palace in shades of amber and rose, Marcus awakened with his usual cheerful energy. He stretched, yawned, and immediately set about preparing breakfast over his rekindled fire. The aroma of fresh bread warming in his traveling pan and tea brewing in his copper kettle created a small oasis of domestic comfort in the vast frozen landscape. As he worked, he hummed softly to himself, the same gentle melodies that had drifted through the palace halls the night before. Queen Alara, who had finally dozed fitfully in her chair by the window just before sunrise, stirred at the sound of his morning song. She moved stiffly to look down at the courtyard once more, her breath creating small clouds of frost in the already frigid air of her tower room. Below, the merchant was moving about his morning routine with an ease that spoke of countless dawns spent in unfamiliar places, yet he seemed utterly content with his simple life. As Marcus finished his breakfast, he looked up at the towering spires of the Ice Palace with genuine appreciation. Most people who glimpsed the Crystal Realm spoke of it in whispers of fear or pity, but his eyes held only wonder. He stood and brushed the crumbs from his coat, then called out in a clear, friendly voice that carried easily in the thin air, "Good morning, beautiful palace. Thank you for sheltering me through the night. I hope whoever lives within these magnificent walls slept as peacefully as I did." His words were spoken with such genuine warmth and gratitude that they seemed to create small eddies of heat in the frozen air around him. High in her tower, Queen Alara gasped softly. No one had spoken to her realm with such kindness in decades. Most travelers who accidentally found their way here fled as quickly as possible, spreading tales of the cursed kingdom and its monstrous queen. But this man thanked her palace as if it were a friend who had offered hospitality. The simple courtesy of his words struck something deep within her frozen heart. Marcus spent the morning exploring the outer courtyards of the palace, his merchant's eye appreciating the incredible craftsmanship of the ice sculptures in architectural details. He examined the delicate tracery of frost on the walls, the way light played through the crystalline surfaces, and the perfect symmetry of the frozen fountains. Everything he saw filled him with genuine admiration, and he spoke his thoughts aloud, as was his habit when traveling alone. "Such artistry," he murmured, running his gloved fingers along the smooth surface of an ice-carved railing. Whoever created this place must have had the soul of a poet and the skill of a master craftsman. I've traveled to many kingdoms, but I've never seen anything quite so beautiful." His words drifted upward like prayers, reaching the queen in her self-imposed exile. Each compliment, each expression of wonder chipped away at the walls of ice she had built around her heart. She found herself moving from window to window, following his progress through the courtyard, hanging on his every word like someone dying of thirst might cherish each drop of water. As the day progressed, Marcus began to unpack some of his wares, spreading a cheerful blanket on the ground and arranging various items, as if setting up a small market stall. He had no expectation of customers in this empty realm, but the routine brought him comfort, and perhaps, he thought, it might bring some color and interest to this beautiful but melancholy place. He arranged hand-knitted scarves in jewel tones that seemed to glow against the white snow. Small wooden carvings of animals and children caught the light and cast dancing shadows. Jars of honey and preserved fruits created a rainbow of amber, crimson, and gold. The effect was like a tiny burst of spring and summer, transplanted into the heart of eternal winter. From her tower, Queen Alara stared at the display with growing fascination. She had not seen such colors in 20 years. The sight of the merchant's goods stirred memories she had thought frozen forever. She remembered the markets of her youth, the joy of choosing a new ribbon for her hair, the taste of sweet preserves on fresh bread, the soft warmth of woolen mittens on a cold day. These were simple pleasures she had denied herself for so long that they now seemed like glimpses into another world entirely. As afternoon settled over the realm, Marcus began to tell stories to his horses as he brushed their coats. It was another of his traveling habits, born of long days on empty roads, with only his animals for company. But his stories were captivating tales of adventure and kindness, of brave hearts and gentle souls, of magic found in everyday moments, and love that conquered all obstacles. He spoke of a baker who gave away bread to hungry children and found that his ovens never ran empty. He told of a seamstress whose stitches were so filled with love that her quilts could heal broken hearts. He shared the legend of a gardener whose flowers bloomed even in winter because he sang to them each morning and thanked them each evening for their beauty. Each story was like a small flame in the cold air, warming not just the space around Marcus, but somehow reaching into the very stones of the palace itself. Queen Alara found herself leaning against her window frame, completely absorbed in these tales of goodness and wonder. She had forgotten that such stories existed, forgotten that the world held people who chose kindness over cruelty, hope over despair. As evening approached and Marcus began preparing his dinner, he looked up at the palace towers and spoke again to the empty air, though his words carried clearly to the queen's ears. "I know someone lives in this beautiful palace," he said conversationally, as if speaking to an old friend. "I can feel the loneliness here, and it breaks my heart. Whoever you are, wherever you are, please know that you're not alone tonight. I'm here, and I'm honored to share this space with you, even if we never meet face to face." The simple compassion in his voice nearly undid Queen Alara completely. Tears that should have been warm, but fell as tiny ice crystals traced down her pale cheeks. When had anyone last spoken to her with such gentleness? When had anyone acknowledged her pain without fear or judgment? The merchant's kindness was like sunlight breaking through storm clouds, illuminating corners of her heart that had been dark for far too long. That night, as Marcus once again filled the courtyard with his warm songs and gentle melodies, Queen Alara made a decision that would have seemed impossible just 2 days before. She would find a way to thank this kind stranger who had brought such unexpected light into her frozen world. She could not risk approaching him directly, for her touch would surely freeze him solid. But perhaps there were other ways to show gratitude. Moving carefully through her palace corridors, the queen made her way to rooms she had not entered in years. The royal kitchens, now thick with ice and silence, still held treasures from the days when the palace had been filled with life. She found preserved delicacies from the time before her transformation, foods that her icy touch could not spoil because they were already crystallized in magical preservation spells. Working slowly and carefully, Queen Alara prepared a small feast of these ancient delicacies. Candied fruits that sparkled like jewels, crystallized flower petals that tasted of spring meadows, honey that had been enchanted to never lose its golden sweetness. She arranged everything on a silver tray that had belonged to her mother, polishing it with her breath until it gleamed despite the cold. As Marcus slept peacefully in his bedroll beside the dying fire, Queen Alara crept down to the courtyard like a ghost in silver and blue. Moving silently across the snow, she placed the tray of delicacies beside his wagon, where he would find them upon waking. Then she retreated quickly to her tower, her heart beating faster than it had in 20 years. When morning came and Marcus discovered the gift, his delighted laughter rang through the crystal air, like church bells on a festival day. He examined each delicacy with wonder and genuine appreciation, clearly recognizing the thought and care that had gone into their preparation. "Thank you, generous soul," he called out to the palace, his voice warm with gratitude. "These beautiful gifts tell me that whoever lives here has a heart as magnificent as this palace itself. I am truly honored by your kindness." And so began a most unusual friendship between the warm-hearted traveler and the Ice Queen, who watched from shadows and towers, each day bringing new small gifts of kindness that would slowly, gently begin to thaw the frozen barriers around a heart that had forgotten how to love. That morning, as Marcus savored the exquisite crystallized delicacies, he noticed something remarkable. Each bite seemed to carry with it not just flavor, but memory. The candied violets tasted of laughter in spring gardens. The honey spoke of lazy summer afternoons when time moved slowly, and contentment was found in simple pleasures. The crystallized rose petals held the essence of first love, tender and sweet and full of possibility. As he ate, Marcus began to understand that these were not ordinary preserved foods. They were memories made edible, emotions captured in crystal form. Someone in this palace had not merely prepared a meal, but had shared pieces of their very soul with him. The realization filled him with profound respect for this mysterious benefactor, who remained hidden, yet showed such extraordinary generosity. After finishing the magical breakfast, Marcus spent the morning arranging his own gift in return. He selected the finest items from his wagon, things that might bring joy to someone who clearly had not known much happiness in recent years. A music box that played gentle lullabies when wound, its melody sweet enough to ease troubled dreams. A small hand mirror framed in carved rosewood, polished to such perfection that it seemed to hold light within its surface. A woolen shawl dyed in deep purple and embroidered with silver threads that caught the light like captured starfire. But more than material goods, Marcus left something far more precious. He took out his writing materials and carefully penned a letter on fine parchment. His words were chosen with the care of a poet and the warmth of a friend speaking to someone beloved. To the gracious soul who dwells within this palace of wonders, he wrote in flowing script. Your kindness has touched my heart more deeply than you could know. I have traveled many roads and seen many kingdoms, but never have I encountered such generous hospitality from someone I have yet to meet. Your gifts spoke of memories preserved like treasures, and I find myself wondering about the person who could create such beauty from sweetness and light. He paused in his writing, looking up at the towering spires, where he somehow sensed he was being watched. I cannot know your story, he continued, but I sense a great loneliness in this magnificent place. Please know that loneliness need not be permanent. Sometimes the greatest magic happens when two hearts recognize kindness in each other, even across vast distances or impossible circumstances. Marcus sealed the letter with wax and placed it alongside his gifts in a spot where his mysterious host would surely find them. Then he went about his daily routine, but with a new awareness of being observed, not watched with suspicion or fear, but regarded with curiosity and perhaps something warmer. He found himself speaking more often to the empty air, sharing stories of his travels and observations about the incredible artistry he saw everywhere around him. The way the light moves through these ice walls, he mused aloud while examining a particularly intricate frozen archway. It's like watching aurora trapped in crystal. I wonder if whoever designed this place knew they were creating something that would make angels weep with joy. High above, Queen Elara pressed her hand to her chest, feeling something she had thought lost forever. His words painted pictures of beauty where she had seen only the prison of her own making. Through his eyes, her palace was not a monument to sorrow, but a work of art worthy of admiration. Through his voice, her realm became not a place of exile, but a destination someone might choose to visit simply for its wonder. She found herself moving through her palace with new awareness, seeing it as Marcus might see it. The way afternoon light transformed the great hall into a cathedral of rainbows. The delicate ice flowers that had grown naturally along her windowsills, more intricate than any earthly bloom. The musical quality of wind moving through the crystalline corridors, creating harmonies that would make any composer envious. For the first time in 20 years, Queen Elara began to take pride in her creation rather than shame. Perhaps her curse had not only brought destruction, perhaps from her sorrow had come something genuinely beautiful, something worthy of the admiration this kind stranger offered so freely. That evening, as Marcus prepared his dinner, he discovered that someone had left fresh bread, still warm, from magical ovens and a pot of soup that steamed invitingly despite the freezing air. The bread was the finest he had ever tasted, made with flour that seemed to have been ground from golden wheat kissed by summer sunshine. The soup was a masterpiece of subtle flavors, vegetables and herbs blended with such skill that each spoonful told a story of gardens in full bloom. "My mysterious friend," Marcus called out to the twilight air, "you have talents that would make royal chefs weep with envy. But more than that, you have a heart that knows how to turn simple ingredients into expressions of caring. I am humbled by your generosity and amazed by your skill." As night settled over the crystal realm, Marcus built up his fire and began his evening routine of songs and stories. But tonight, his tales took on a different quality. He spoke directly to the palace, to the listening presence he could feel in the crystalline walls around him. He told the story of a princess who had been cursed to sleep for 100 years, But instead of waiting for someone to rescue her, she learned to explore the landscape of dreams until she became its queen. He shared the tale of a knight whose armor had been enchanted to be too heavy to remove, until he discovered that true strength came not from metal, but from the weight of compassion he carried in his heart. Most powerfully, he spoke of a garden that had been frozen by an early winter, its flowers trapped in ice. Everyone thought the garden was dead, until spring came and revealed that the ice had preserved the blooms perfectly, making them more beautiful than they had ever been before. Sometimes, Marcus said softly, his words carrying clearly in the still air, what seems like an ending is really just a different kind of beginning. What looks like destruction might be transformation in disguise. The heart that has known great sorrow often becomes capable of equally great love. In her tower, Queen Alara felt these words settle into her soul, like seeds taking root in fertile soil. Could it be possible that her 20 years of isolation had not been wasted time? Could her transformation into the Ice Queen have prepared her for something she had not yet imagined? That night, she made another journey through her palace, this time to the great library where thousands of books stood frozen but perfectly preserved. She selected a volume of poetry, its pages crisp with cold, but still readable. By the light of an ice crystal lamp, she read verses about love and loss, hope and healing, transformation and renewal. For hours, she sat reading, and slowly, she began to see her story differently. Not as a tale of a princess cursed to become a monster, but as the journey of a young woman who had learned to survive impossible grief. Not as a queen who had failed her people, but as a soul who had preserved something precious through the longest winter. When dawn came, Queen Alara moved with purpose she had not felt in decades. She made her way to the highest tower of her palace, where a great bell had stood silent for 20 years. Taking care not to let her frozen fingers crack the metal, she rang it once, twice, 3 times. The sound rolled across the crystal realm like thunder, like the voice of the mountain itself awakening after a long sleep. In the courtyard below, Marcus looked up with wonder and delight. "Good morning to you too," he called out with genuine joy. What a magnificent way to greet the dawn. I feel as though I'm witnessing something historic, something wonderful about to begin. And indeed, something wonderful was about to begin. For in her tower, Queen Alara was preparing to take the first step toward ending her self-imposed exile. She could not yet risk meeting Marcus face to face, but perhaps there were other ways for them to truly communicate. Perhaps it was time for the Ice Queen to find her voice again, even if she could not yet show her face. The morning sun caught the palace walls and threw light in all directions, as if the entire crystal realm was celebrating the possibility of change. And in that light, both the lonely queen and the warm-hearted traveler felt something shift, like the first crack in river ice, when winter finally begins its retreat before the advancing spring. Spring, with the great bell's resonant call still echoing across the crystal realm. Queen Alara felt courage stirring in her chest, like the first flutter of wings learning to fly. She moved through her palace corridors with newfound determination, her footsteps creating delicate chimes as ice crystals fell from the ceiling with each step. The sound was like nature's own wind chimes, marking her passage through halls that had known only silence for far too long. She made her way to a chamber she had avoided for 20 years, the palace's music room. Here, beneath layers of pristine frost, stood instruments that had once filled the kingdom with joy. A harp with strings of silver that caught light like captured moonbeams. A flute carved from crystalline wood that sang sweeter than any bird. A piano whose keys were made of polished ice that never melted, each note pure as winter starlight. Queen Alara approached the piano with trembling hands. She had been an accomplished musician in her youth, before grief had frozen her fingers and made her afraid to touch anything beautiful. Now, she sat carefully on the ice crystal bench and placed her hands above the keys, not quite touching them. Even through her gloves, she could feel the cold radiating from her fingertips. But for the first time in decades, she wondered if her curse might serve a purpose she had never considered. Slowly, carefully, she began to play. The melody that flowed from the crystalline keys was unlike anything that had ever been heard in any kingdom. It was the sound of winter itself singing, of snow falling on silent forests, of starlight dancing across frozen lakes. The music carried the weight of 20 years of solitude, but also something else, something that had been growing stronger each day since Marcus's arrival. Hope, fragile as the first green shoot, pushing through snow, but undeniably alive. The melody drifted down through the palace corridors and out into the courtyard where Marcus was tending to his horses. He stopped mid-motion, his brush suspended in the air, as the extraordinary music washed over him. It was the most beautiful and heartbreaking sound he had ever heard, filled with such longing and such carefully contained emotion that it brought tears to his eyes. "Magnificent," he whispered, setting down his brush and moving to the center of the courtyard where he could hear the music more clearly. Such talent, such feeling. Whoever you are, dear friend, your soul speaks through those keys more clearly than words ever could. In the music room, Queen Alara heard his voice and felt warmth bloom in her chest despite the ice that encased her heart. She began to play with more confidence, letting the melody tell the story she had never been able to speak aloud. The music spoke of a young queen's love for her people, of grief so profound it had transformed her very nature, of years spent in self-imposed exile, believing herself to be a monster rather than a woman in pain. But as the composition evolved, so did its message. The melody began to incorporate themes of wonder and gratitude, reflecting the changes Marcus's presence had brought to her world. She played the sound of his laughter, the warmth of his kindness, the way his songs had begun to melt the ice around her heart note by precious note. Marcus listened with growing amazement as the music seemed to respond to his very thoughts. When he smiled, the melody lifted. When he felt moved to call out words of encouragement, the harmony swelled to embrace his voice. It was as if he and this mysterious musician were having a conversation without words, understanding each other through the universal language of emotion and art. "I hear your story," Marcus said softly, his voice carrying clearly in the crystal air. "I hear the sorrow and the beauty, the loneliness and the strength, but I hear something else too, something wonderful. I hear a heart that's ready to trust again, ready to let someone care about its pain." Sar, Queen Alara's playing, faltered for just a moment as his words reached her. The kindness in his voice, the way he spoke of her pain as something worthy of compassion rather than fear, cracked something deep within her frozen defenses. She resumed playing, but now the music carried a question, a tentative reaching out, like a hand extended in friendship. Understanding the invitation in her melody, Marcus began to sing along with her playing. His voice wove through her crystalline notes, like golden thread through silver fabric, creating a harmony more beautiful than either could have achieved alone. He sang of acceptance and patience, of friendship that asked for nothing but the privilege of caring. His words spoke of winter's beauty as well as spring's promise, honoring both the sorrow and the hope that lived side by side in every heart. Together, their music rose through the palace spires and out across the crystal realm, transforming the very air with its beauty. The aurora that painted the northern sky seemed to pulse in rhythm with their song, and the ice formations throughout the kingdom resonated with harmonics that made the entire realm sing like the world's largest crystal bell. As the sun reached its zenith and painted everything in shades of diamond and gold, Queen Alara felt something she had thought impossible. The ice around her heart was not melting exactly, but it was changing, becoming something new. Instead of the cold prison it had been for 20 years, it was transforming into something like armor made of starlight, protective, but no longer isolating. When the music finally faded into gentle echoes, both musicians sat in the profound silence that follows transcendent art. Marcus remained in the courtyard, his face turned toward the palace with an expression of wonder and deep respect. He understood that he had been given a gift beyond price, a glimpse into a soul that had survived unimaginable sorrow and emerged with the capacity to create such beauty. "Thank you," he said simply, his words carrying all the gratitude in his warm heart. "Thank you for trusting me with your music, with your story. I feel honored beyond words to have shared this moment with you." In her music room, Queen Alara sat with tears of ice crystal on her cheeks. But for the first time in 20 years, they were tears of joy rather than sorrow. She had communicated with another soul, had shared her deepest feelings, and been met with understanding rather than fear. The connection she had forged with this kind stranger through music felt stronger than any bond she had known since her parents' death. Inspired by the success of their musical conversation, Queen Alara began to prepare another gift, but this one would be different from the crystallized delicacies she had shared before. She made her way to the palace's great workshop, where the royal artisans had once created works of incredible beauty. The tools and materials were perfectly preserved beneath their coating of frost, waiting as if they had known this day would come. Working with skills she had not used in decades, Queen Alara began to craft something that would speak of gratitude and growing friendship. She carved a small sculpture from the purest ice, her touch guiding the crystal into a form that captured the essence of music made visible. It was abstract, yet somehow clearly recognizable as the physical embodiment of harmony, two figures that seemed to dance together despite being carved from a single block of ice. But this sculpture was different from anything she had created before. As she worked, Queen Alara poured not just her skill, but her newfound hope into the piece. The ice responded to her touch in ways it never had before, becoming not merely frozen water, but something closer to living crystal that held light within its structure and sang softly when the wind touched it. As afternoon shadows began to lengthen across the courtyard, Queen Alara made her careful way down from her workshop. She moved differently now, with less of the rigid control that had characterized her movements for 20 years. The change was subtle, but significant, as if the music she had shared with Marcus had begun to thaw not just her heart, but her very bones. She placed the crystal sculpture beside Marcus's wagon, arranging it so that the afternoon light would catch its faceted surfaces and throw rainbows across the snow. Then, acting on an impulse that surprised her with its boldness, she left something else as well, a small scroll of parchment on which she had written her first words to another person in 2 decades. The message was brief but heartfelt, written in elegant script that spoke of royal education and careful thought. "Dear kind traveler," it read, "your music has awakened something in me that I thought lost forever. I cannot yet show myself, for my touch brings winter to all it meets, but please know that your presence has brought spring to my soul. With deepest gratitude and growing friendship, a grateful resident of this palace." When Marcus discovered these gifts, his reaction was everything Queen Alara could have hoped for and more. He lifted the crystal sculpture with reverent care, turning it slowly in his hands as light danced through its crystalline structure. The soft, musical note it produced, when touched by the breeze, made him gasp with delight. "This is extraordinary," he breathed, his voice filled with genuine awe. "Such artistry, such vision. You've captured the very essence of harmony in crystal form." He read her note with equal appreciation, his warm brown eyes growing bright with unshed tears of emotion. "My dear friend," he called out to the palace, his voice strong and clear, "your words touch my heart more than you could know. Please do not think of yourself as cursed or dangerous. I see only someone with incredible gifts who has survived great trials with grace and dignity. Winter is not the enemy of spring. It is spring's teacher. And you, whatever your story may be, have clearly learned wisdom that most people never discover." He paused, looking up at the towering spires, where he somehow knew she was listening. "As for not being able to show yourself, please know that I have no expectations beyond the friendship we are already building. Some of the most beautiful connections between souls happen without ever seeing faces. The heart recognizes kindness regardless of the form it takes." Marcus's words settled over Queen Alara like a warm blanket on a cold night. He was offering her something she had never dared hope for: acceptance without conditions, friendship without demands. The possibility that someone could know of her curse and still choose to remain, still choose to care, seemed almost too wonderful to believe. That evening, as had become their custom, Marcus built his fire and began his nightly routine of songs and stories. But tonight felt different, charged with new possibility and deeper connection. Queen Ilara positioned herself at her favorite window, no longer hiding in the shadows, but standing openly, where the light from Marcus's fire could illuminate her silhouette against the crystalline glass. She could not yet risk descending to the courtyard, could not yet trust herself to be close enough to harm him with her touch. But she could be visible, could let him see that she was truly there, truly listening to every word he spoke. It was a small step, but for someone who had hidden herself away for 20 years, it felt as momentous as learning to fly. Marcus noticed the change immediately. The figure in the tower window, backlit by the aurora and framed by ice that sparkled like diamonds, took his breath away. Even as a silhouette, she carried herself with unmistakable grace and dignity. Her posture spoke of someone accustomed to bearing great responsibility, but also of deep weariness and carefully guarded hope. "Good evening, dear friend," Marcus called up to her, his voice warm with genuine pleasure. "How wonderful to see you, even if only your graceful shadow. Please know that you honor me with your presence, and I hope my simple songs bring you even half the joy your music brought to me." And so they spent the evening, the warm-hearted traveler and the Ice Queen, sharing stories and songs across the distance that still separated them, but which seemed to grow smaller with each passing moment. Neither knew that their growing friendship was about to face its greatest test, or that the very connection they were building would soon offer them both the chance to discover who they truly were when they dared to trust completely in the transformative power of love. As the days flowed into one another like gentle streams joining a peaceful river, the friendship between Marcus and Queen Alara deepened in ways neither had thought possible. Their evening conversations became the bright center around which their entire days revolved. Marcus would wake each morning already anticipating the stories he would share when darkness fell, while Queen Alara found herself moving through her palace with lighter steps, her mind composing melodies she would play when the sun set, and their magical communion could begin again. The gifts they exchanged grew more personal and meaningful with each passing day. Marcus crafted small wooden figurines during his quiet afternoon hours, each one carved with the skill of someone who understood that love lived in the details. A tiny bird with wings spread wide in joyful flight, a miniature tree whose branches seemed to dance in an eternal breeze, a small figure of a woman with arms outstretched as if embracing the entire world. Each carving carried a message of hope and possibility, reminding Queen Alara that beauty could be found in the simplest gestures of caring. In return, Queen Alara created wonders from ice that defied every law of nature Marcus thought he knew. Flowers that bloomed eternal in crystalline perfection, their petals so delicate they seemed to flutter in the slightest breeze, yet never broke or melted. Intricate snowflakes the size of dinner plates, each one unique and impossibly complex, that chimed like tiny bells when touched by the wind. Most remarkable of all, she began crafting ice that held warmth within its crystal structure, creating sculptures that glowed with gentle heat despite their frozen appearance. As our tale draws to a gentle close, like twilight settling over snow-covered meadows, we leave Marcus and Queen Alara at the threshold of a love that proves winter and warmth need not be enemies, but can dance together in perfect harmony. Their story reminds us that sometimes the greatest magic happens not in grand gestures, but in the quiet courage to open our hearts when we thought they were forever frozen. May their gentle friendship carry you now into the sweetest of dreams, where your own heart can find the warmth it seeks, even in the deepest winter of the soul.